Hello everyone and welcome to this very first tutorial of FlashFX. Today we're doing a quick overview of what FlashFX is and what it does. So let's jump right into it. Perfect. So when you first launch the app, you'll see this homepage. It's very basic. Here you have your project list. Here you can create a new project and here you can open the editor. So let's create a new project. I'll give it the name, for example, perfect tutorial project. Now here we have the canvas presets. The canvas presets is the workspace that you're gonna use when making your video. So if you're making a YouTube thumbnail, so for example, if you're making a YouTube thumbnail, you can use this, or if you're using an Instagram story, you can use this. And here you can see a preview. Here there is the custom canvas size, which the Instagram story is 180 by 1920. And here is a preview of how it looks. The 4K UHD is probably the best. It's the one that I use the most, and it's the very most amount of quality that you can have. When you've chosen your canvas preset, you can click on create project. Perfect. Here you have the preview of the project, which is just the canvas that you have. But since we didn't choose anything, we didn't modify anything in the project, of course now it's just empty and there is no preview available. So now let's open the editor. When you open the editor, the first thing that you have to do is zoom out. So you can zoom out with these lenses, or you can use the plus and minus keybinds in your keyboard. So you can easily zoom in and out. So when you're at around 25%, I think it's the most optimal way of zooming. And now let's talk about the layout and what it does. So the main purpose of FlashFX is to create motion graphics. I'm sure you already heard about After Effects, which is the current industry standard. And I'm sure you also heard about Premiere Pro and CapCut. And what this software does is think of Premiere Pro and its free counterpart CapCut, which is a little less professional, but it's faster, it's free, and it's way easier to use. FlashFX is like the counterpart of After Effects. So what it does is to create motion graphics for videos for free and faster. So the layout is very simple. You can see that we have our main workspace here that are called the canvas. Here in the top bar is what you use the most, which is the toolbar. In the toolbar, you can find every single tool you need to create your animation. So you can start with a simple shape, you can drag it, you can snap it, and so on. Then you have the zoom properties, the history, if you want to go back or go forward in if you want to go back or forward in your project. You can also use Ctrl Z or Ctrl Y for move forward. Then you have the grid. The grid is something extremely important that you probably have already enabled if it's your first project. And if you enable the grid, you can see that here we have some grid boxes that if we enable grid snapping, which is this button right here, then we can snap our shape to the grid. This is very helpful when you have to do structured layouts. So instead of having to always change the properties here to make it an organized layout, you can just use the grid snapping. You can also change the grid snapping with the menu. Here you can disable the grid snapping and disable the grid. On the left, you can find the layers panel. Now, a thing that I have to tell is don't confuse panel with tab. The layers panel is all the panel that is on the left. The layers tab is just the tab here that will host all the layers that are in the canvas. So as you can see, I have this shape selected. So this layer is selected. If I create another one, it creates a new layer. I can also select it from here, for example. And this is the layers tab. Then we have the media tab on the layers panel, which, as you can tell from the name, is like the media pool. Now here it's low quality just to save memory since it's web, but you can upload media. For example, I can import this image. I don't know why I have it, probably a sticker. And you can zoom it in, zoom it out, and it's full quality. Because if you remember, this canvas was 4K, so it's very high quality. Then we have the AI tab that currently as this tutorial is disabled, but we'll enable it soon, so don't worry if you don't see it. Then we have the presets that we'll talk about later. Presets, you have to do them by grouping more shapes. So it's something a little bit more advanced. So let's first go into the basics of the software. On the right side, you can see the properties panel, which has different tabs. The first one is the background settings. The background settings is shown when you have nothing selected. So as you can see, I have this one selected. If I deselect it by clicking away, you can see that I have the background settings. And as you can guess, the background settings modify the background itself. So if I add a background color, I can modify it. And I've made a background tutorials on this channel. You can also add new colors, create gradients, and create more premium backgrounds. Now I'll just create one very fast because the background tutorial will be later on this video. Step cut here. The fact that I'm making this. Perfect. I've made a simple background that, as you can see, it's pretty good. It's very powerful in background settings. Now let's talk about the properties tabs, which is the design tab in the properties panel. The properties panel main purpose is to edit the properties of the shapes and also keyframe here fast if you want to add fast keyframes. So if you have a shape selected, you can see that we have the sliders for the position that you can modify from here, or the live modify if you drag, the width, the height, and so on. If you want to make a square, it's very simple because as you can see, we have these small copy and paste buttons on the top of each property. For example, if you want to make a square, I just copy the width and paste it here. So very simple. Now it's a perfect square. If I modify this, I can just copy again and paste again. Perfect. To modify the color, I suggest to convert the shape into an advanced shape. So the first color is always blue, but you can also modify the default color. We'll see it in the settings later. To modify the color on the properties, you just use this drag, or same as the background settings, you can add a new color and create a premium gradients even for the shapes. So for example, this gradient that is exactly like this, you could create the same thing with a shape. Then you can also modify the stroke color, and a very cool feature that FlashFX has is that to match the fill color with the stroke color. So for example, if I have a white stroke, you can see here it's white. If you click match to fill color, it will turn black because currently we have black as the main color. If here we add a gradient like the background, then if we match the stroke to the fill color, we'll also have the stroke that is a gradient. So this is very helpful and very fast instead of just repeating every single color, every single property, every single position. It's very, very simple to do it like this. You can also rotate the shape, change the opacity, and add a glow. For example, if I do something like this, you can see we already have a good red glow. If I add 800, it's even more, and so on. On the rotation, if you don't like it, there is a very fast reset button. So instead of dragging it, you can drag it here, but instead of dragging it all the way down, you can also click reset. Very simple. Then with Ctrl D, we can copy and paste the shapes. So for example, here I created a copy, and you can see that the shadow also helps making a more premium animation. Now, what if I want this shape, that is for example a white shape, be under the red one, because currently you can see it's over it and not under it. You can do it in multiple ways. For example, here I can bring to the front, or here in the layers I can bring back and then to the front. So there are two ways that you can edit and modify layers as you want in FlashFX. Now we have one last thing to talk about, which is the align and extend panels, which are all these strange squares that appear here. Now, there are a lot of buttons, I know, but once you understand each group of buttons that you can see have different colors, trust me, this is a very big game changer. The main one is the position. And as you can see, it's very simple and very intuitive. It positions the shape based on the arrow. So the bottom left is here, the bottom right is here. You can also snap it at the center with this, and this is a very easy shape control. Then we have the expand. The expand takes the bottom corner and the upper corner and snaps the upper corner to the corner of the canvas. It's easier done than said. So if we have a shape at the center and we expand it to the top right, you can see that here it remained unchanged. If we do this, then the upper corner gets snapped here. Same with the other corner, same with the bottom, same with the left, and so on. If you click the center one, it will be expanded on all corners. So if I click it, you can see that every single corner has been expanded. Perfect. So these are the basics of FlashFX. We'll go deeper into all these buttons in later videos. And if you want to try it out, the application, I'll leave a link in the description.